I want to thank you all for being here. I want to be respectful of your time. So we are going to be moving through this. There will be opportunities for you to ask questions during the breakout sessions, which I'll explain after we get through a little bit of the presentation and then at the end. But right now I want to introduce a guest who will be leading the start of this meeting. Ms. Selena Cuffey-Glenn is the City of Richmond CAO, and we're very delighted to have her here.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank all of you for being out this afternoon. This initiative is so very important to the city. I think over the past couple of weeks I've had the opportunity to meet some of you and hear your recommendations, concerns, etc. as it relates to the bus rapid transit program. And one of the things I want to clearly convey on behalf of the mayor of the city, certainly having access to transportation is critical for us as a community as we continue to grow and expand the opportunities that we see within our boundaries, but also how we extend ourselves and look for opportunities when it comes to jobs and other kinds of services that are available within the region. So we thought it'd be very important for us to come out today and give you an opportunity to actually see where we are as it relates to the 30% drawings for the project, but also get more feedback because we want a product that's going to work for our citizens, it's going to work for the region. And so it's grateful for us to have you to be in attendance tonight. You're going to hear from a number of folks as part of the breakout sessions, both from the GRTC staff, but also from city staff. This product is really about us as a community. There are so many vulnerable players that reside within the boundaries of the city of Richmond, but also within the region. And we want to make certain that there is complete access when it comes to transportation, also when it comes to information. This is the beginning, I think, of a journey that we will travel together as it relates to the importance of public transit systems. I remember when I came to Richmond about 30 plus years ago, and I didn't have an automobile and I needed to get to work and get to services. I relied on the services of GRTC. And I think for individuals, and we have over 214,000 plus citizens within the boundaries of the city of Richmond, but also needing services that go beyond our borders. That is important that for us as a community that we work in tandem. GRTC, they're not alone. We are partners in this effort. It also is a relationship with our federal transportation partners as well as the state. So we are all trying to find solutions, and I think together with you being participants today will allow us to move closer to finding the solutions that will be required for this community. I'm not going to take too long with my remarks, but to say certainly it's grateful for you to be a part of this exercise. I'm hoping that you will take the time to attend some of the breakout sessions and hear information, but also provide your thoughts. We can't do this alone. I don't think there's any community where its municipal government is perfect, but I think with the participation of our partners, both representing the business community, the residential, young and seniors within our communities, understanding their needs, and that as you look at the spine of our community, how do you ensure that you're going to have a product that's going to be workable? So thank you for being here today. I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, and she's going to walk you through the logistic of these breakout sessions and how you can be engaged. But once again, it's certainly a privilege for me to be part of the exercise. I want you all to know that the city government is behind this project. It is something that we have embraced as a solution to address some of the issues as it relates to transportation, not only in the city but in the region. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, and we're going to begin with the exercises for this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Selena. Appreciate that. And as she mentioned, this is not just a GRTC project or a City of Richmond project. You can see along the bottom here, and I'd like to ask folks to raise their hand if they're represented. Who here is from the City of Richmond? If you just quickly raise. Thank you all for being here. From Department of Rail and Public Transportation, from Virginia. Okay, we have some folks from there. Of course, Henrico County is present as well. Thank you. And I don't know if we have any US DOT folks in the house. We might. I know we have a local branch. And of course, GRTC. We are here as well and happy to help you. So thank you all for being here. Again, thank you to the University of Richmond. So let me update you on where we are now. We're going to be moving pretty quickly through this slideshow, and then we'll get to our breakout sessions. Where are we now? We're at the 30% conceptual design. So for those of you like me who are not engineers, what that means is that we're at basically figuring out the skeleton of what will this system look like, and now we're getting ready to put in a lot of flesh. And that's where you all are going to be so helpful with this next phase of design in continuing to provide further detailed feedback, which will be very helpful through the next phase. Quickly, for those of you, if this is your first time having exposure to this project, this is the length of the project, 7.6 miles along Broad Street, 14th Street, and Main Streets. There are 2 turnaround points currently at Willow Lawn and also at Rockets Landing. And we are going to update you on some of the changes that have happened based on public feedback and also partner feedback. One of the big ones is the standard median width, and we've had some really great feedback about that, as well as some new traffic lights proposed and pedestrian crossings. So immediately I wanted to say thank you. There are many of you in this room who have been a part of this discussion, providing very specific feedback, which is so helpful because those of you that are in your neighborhoods, you know your streets better than anyone else. And so you're able to provide very specific input on where do we most use a left turn? Where could, say through VCU, where could there be better pedestrian access north-south? So we'll get into that as we go through this. And of course, we've heard regularly how important it is to preserve parking. And this is something new that we'll be talking about today. It's the loading zones. So we're going to need more feedback from you over this next several month period on loading zones specifically as we work with the city of Richmond regarding this. But thank you for all of your public engagement. So what's the project schedule? Everyone has a blue folder, and in that you'll have a big slide of this. So don't worry, you can review this at your leisure. This just lets you know where are we. It's sort of a here we are now map. And we are at the very end of the very first upper left green bar that you see. So we've still got a ways to go with public engagement, with design, and before we're actually ready to start construction. So what will the stations look like? There's only been a couple of minor changes to this design since the last time you saw it. One you may notice right away, and it's the location of the totem pole, the tall brick structure on the right side of this screen. It has now been moved to the approaching side for a bus, which makes sense. If you're in a bus, you want to see, where am I? And it's easier to see where you are if the totem pole is on this side approaching the station instead of waiting until you get all the way up to the station. Also, some people have asked, well, what's with these? I'm going to step over here and point them out real quick. That is space that is allocated for public art. It doesn't necessarily have to be that shape. It's just a placeholder for right now. It's currently a wind screen, but it is capable of being a future place for public art collaboration, unique to the station's location in the city. There's some other features I'm just going to give you. I know one of the things we've heard is I just have a really hard time visualizing what this is going to look like in reality. So this is a real picture that was taken, and then we superimposed to scale what this station will look like. This is in front of the Staples Mill Westbound, which as you can recognize is at the Anthem, and what it looks like at night. You can see that the platform is slightly raised. There is lighting at night, and there's bike rack storage there as well, which is in coordination with the city's master plan for the bikes. As we go into the next one, you can see a little bit easier some of the railing that's both protective for people whenever they're at the station itself in the middle. This is a median running station. You can see the Science Museum in the background, and also more of the bike parking and a better view of the totem pole, as well as some of the features that make up what the station design is: brick, cedar, masonry, and you can see it at night as well. There will be 24/7 CCTV access that feeds not only into GRTC's headquarters for safety and security purposes, but also to the city's 911 call center. Here's Shafer during the eastbound day. I also want to point out the red pavement. That's a standard that's usually done whenever you have a dedicated bus lane across the country. Red is the colorized pavement. This will be done for about 100 feet leading up to a station platform or to an intersection, and you can also see it at night. I want to point out that the stations are located so that there are safe pedestrian access points north-south to get to the station, whether it's in the median or on the curb side, whether you're coming from the north, south, east, or west. And then I picked one of the terminus points. This is out at Rockets Landing. You can see the ADA ramp a little bit easier here, as well as some of the colorized pavement to let you know that you're actually up a little bit higher on this raised platform, and you can see through the back. That back is a specific material. It's kind of like a semi-transparent material. There will be a map on the back there that's a "You Are Here" map, and it'll be interactive. So you'll be able to take your smartphone, go up to the map, and scan a QR code or an augmented reality code. We're exploring both options, and it will interactively take you to what's around, whether it's food, neighborhoods, museums, parks, all of that. It'll be very interactive so that you are better connected, not just transit-wise, but also to your community. For those of you who are really into tech designs, as we go into these, they are all online for you if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty. But I just wanted to give you an example of a curbside walkthrough, meaning that pedestrians walk underneath the shelter when they're in the sidewalk, and then also in the median as well. Again, these are really technical, but they are available online. So this is a question we've gotten a lot. How does a bus, in both directions, navigate an intersection? So I know it can be difficult to visualize. If you're interested in learning more about this, I encourage you to stay in this room whenever we go to our breakout sessions, because we're going to show you a video that helps you see how traffic flows. But I will point out a few things. In green, those are BRT vehicles. In blue, those are the station docking points, the station locations. The smaller colored white, blue, and red, those are parking spaces, of course. And this shows you how the bus, if you're coming from the left side of the screen, you're the bottom red, and then you're going to come across the intersection and then dock on the right side of the screen. So why do you have to dock on the right side? Because the doors are on the right side. It's a 40-foot Gillig bus on display here for you so that you can see what it looks like. Yes, there are bike racks on the front. This is an artistic rendering, which we think is beautiful. But yes, there will be bike racks on the front as well as bike storage at each station. So once the doors, both at the front and on the back middle side, open, that allows passengers to easily get on and off. It's called platform level, which means that if you're pushing a stroller or if you're in a mobility device, it's level for you. You don't have to do any lifting, you don't have to do any ramp rollout like you do now or kneeling. So this is an even easier way to get through. Let's go into medians next. This has been a great conversation over the last several months. We've had so much feedback on this that it helped us to arrive at this particular conclusion, which is the standard 4-foot median, which can be considered pedestrian refuge if there happens to be any mid-block crossing, as we may all attest that we have done that at some point in our life, crossing at not a signalized crosswalk. But we are going to have these are the different sections. So let me show you what the typical medians look like. This is a typical 4-foot median. This is the Shepherd to Fushi stretch. And I gave you just the widths along the bottom because the text was, I think, a little bit too tiny to see. So in the middle, you can see the 4-foot median. On either side, 11 feet for the bus travel lanes, 10 foot in this section for a vehicular, a car in the middle, and then 11 foot on the outside, as well as parking preserved, and then the nice wide sidewalks, which are one of the great things about Broad Street that makes it a walkable place. As we look at the Shepherd to Fushi, this is a typical median station, so now you can see a cross-section of what the station looks like. The station itself is about 12 feet wide. It's about 12 feet wide and about 80 feet long for the actual platform itself. And you can see how the two buses, remember from that bird's eye view, they're crossing each other here. So one bus is stopped, and then the other one keeps moving through past that location. Now, we worked very closely with VCU in the city to identify places where the median perhaps could be even wider. Do we have anyone from VCU present here today? And we've worked very closely with Rob Maroney to assist us through this process. We are also going to go back out in the fall. Of course, the students are starting to move back in and do more counts to see what it's like for their pedestrian access north and south. But this Harrison to Pine was identified as a very high pedestrian crosswalk area, as I'm sure we can all attest to from observing the growth through this area. Very important to have that. So what about all the places that you have a 4-foot median and then a pedestrian access? It bulbs out to a 6-foot pedestrian refuge. So that's great for our Broad Street use. Now, some people ask about, well, what about the big planters downtown? This is still there, of course, that gets up to about 16 feet. And then this is where the buses are now in dedicated curbside lanes. Again, if you want to learn more about all these cross sections, we are going to have a breakout session on this. But the ultimate goal is to have safety and use for all, accommodate all users. whether it's the buses, local buses, general traffic, whether that's a bicyclist or a vehicle, and then pedestrians. We have heard a lot of feedback about left turns, both into and out of neighborhoods, as well as businesses. So we have received that feedback, and we have solutions to help people have dedicated safe turning. Again, you have another big fold-out for you. This one is in your handout, the same one I just pointed out to you. I'll just briefly break down the key for you. Anywhere you see a light, that's a light. Where you see it's green, that's a proposed traffic signal. And then the red means that is left turn not allowed. In some cases, this is existing. The green means go. You will have that. So there are 17 left turns through this median running section of Broad Street. They are protected left turns, meaning that the bus stops and you get to go across and take your left turn. So westbound, you'll see that there are 7, and eastbound there are 10, and this does lead to new signals being proposed. They are proposed at Tilden and Monroe, and then even though the two, Orleans and Byrd, are not within the median running section, we also wanted to mention them. In the east, you have Orleans, which is out at Rockets, and then Byrd out at Willow Lawn. And of course, we continue to receive feedback on this, and thank you for the feedback we've already received. Again, this goes into the little bulb here. It's not to scale. I want to emphasize that. So we sort of exaggerated that bulb so that you could see what it looks like to have a pedestrian crosswalk. We are proposing 6 brand new. So we're actually increasing the north-south pedestrian connectivity across Broad Street over what it exists today. So we're improving north-south connectivity across Broad Street for bikes, for pedestrians, and this is one of the ways that we are doing that. They will be at the 4-foot wide median, and then they bulge out to a 6-foot pedestrian refuge. We heard a lot about that and how important it is. And of course, at all the regular signalized intersections, you have the ADA crosswalks. So what kinds of technology are we looking at for these crosswalks? Well, we're studying Hawk. That's the one that you see on the left, the picture there. It's an actual traffic looking like signal that goes over the top just for pedestrians. And then the one on the right, maybe if you've lived or been along Forest Hill, you might have seen that one. It's one that we do have in the city. That's a rapid flashing, and it's where the pedestrian comes up, pushes it, and then gains access to cross. It's all to, of course, encourage vehicular traffic to pay attention to those pedestrians who are crossing the road. Parking update. Today, as it exists right now, there are 708 on Broad Street free, paid, or loading spaces. There are also more than 8,000 parking spaces within one block, whether north or south of Broad, and I'll go into more detail on this here. We have a full parking report posted online. A lot of this information, I'm just skimming through the big topics, but if you want to get into the deep meat of it, we have all of these reports available for you to review. So where did the 708 parking spaces that you heard back in January come from? Well, this came from a 5-year state-led from the GRTC study trying to understand, well, what happens if we implement a form of rapid transit? What would happen to the parking through the median running section? And they estimated anywhere from 600 or so parking spaces might be lost. We're doing better than that. We are planning to preserve about 402 parking spaces. That does include the adjustments that have been made for requests for left turns into specific neighborhoods, because where you have the dedicated left turn lane, parking is a consequence for that, and that is where we're at. Now, I do have this big slide here. Don't worry, this will be online. You can review it. This is from the parking study that was done by the traffic engineers trying to understand where is parking used most, and how can we most efficiently use the parking that we have available, and where can we save it? So it wasn't just about the parking study, but it was also about going door to door and getting an understanding from individuals of here's how my customers use parking, or here's how I use parking, and that feedback has been crucial in working with the city to identify solutions. So parking preservation, you spoke and we listened. The 708 were expected to be removed. You said save more parking, and that sent the team back to the drawing board, and they did. So the design has been responsive. It's been modified based on your community input, and as I said, 402 are expected to be saved. We get asked, why can't every single 708 parking spaces be saved? Well, the BRT stations are within the right-of-way, whether they're on the curb, which does not allow any parking, or if they're in the median, which does allow for more parallel parking on the side. Public and partner feedback has also requested, as I mentioned, more vehicular left turn access, which is at the cost of some parking because we're working with a fixed width. Broad Street is 82 to 76-ish feet wide, depending on where you are in the corridor. So there will be changes as you go through the corridor with the width that you have to work with. Wider medians for pedestrian refuge, another great thing that we just covered, and then wider travel lanes. We're actually improving the safety of vehicular traffic through this corridor, and then you're working within the existing curb-to-curb space. Now this next slide, this is very important because you're all here, and this is brand new information, and we need your help. We need your help over the next few months working with the city and working with the public to understand loading zones. This is one of the things that we understand may be impacted. So what you're seeing up here is purely the very first proposal. I want to emphasize that. This will likely change based on your input and working with the city on loading zone plans. This just goes into the loading zone study that was done this month, so that's how new it is. This is one of our newest studies that we've done. About 35% of loading zones are used regularly, but you may, as you know, have a peak. You may have a rush hour for a loading zone where there's a delivery happening or lots of deliveries happening within a block. And other parts of the city here utilize timed loading zones. So that's an option that I understand that the city's looking at. Hey, can we implement between this hour and this hour? It's loading zone because that's when these businesses in this block need to. Or maybe it's one of the new apartments going up downtown and they need a loading zone for move in and move out for their residents. So we're looking at this. Right now, loading zones in the proposal have at 0% usage or mostly removed. Not in every case, but if during the study the loading zone was never seen to be used, it was removed. But again, we need help from this. Lynn is here, and also Steve, if you wouldn't mind just acknowledging, saying hi. Those are our two folks that we'll be working very closely with on parking and also now on the loading zone issue. Other topic that we're working on is the ongoing bus route study. This is how does the entire system work? Because this isn't just about the Pulse line itself. This is about the entire system. How do we improve connectivity, efficiency, and transportation along the entire system itself? BRT is one of the solutions to that, but we understand that routes may need to modify in order to better connect people from where they are to where they need to be. And one of the things that we're looking at, just to give you some examples, it's as simple as bus stop locations. What bus stops can we use that need to be maybe shifted even a few feet, or maybe they need to be relocated entirely or removed entirely? And remember, bus stop locations take up parking. So if we take away a bus stop location and open that up, that can lead the parking number to change in the favor of saving more parking. So these are all the kinds of variables that we're talking about here. Transfer plaza, we're looking at bay assignments. Has anybody used the transfer plaza like me? So my bus comes all the way to L and I have to go all the way up to A to make my usual connection. So that's a pretty good distance, especially if you're carrying bags from the grocery store or if I've been to Target. It's a little bit of a walk. And so we're looking at how can we better connect these routes to each other, even just with the bay assignments, and then also looking at the other links between the routes and the Pulse service. So what's next? The study goal is to improve existing service in coordination with the Pulse service. So what that means in layman's terms, it's just better connections, getting people from where they live to where they work or where they need to be, essential services, jobs, retail, healthcare, education. And each neighborhood is going to have specific needs. So we're working with each of these neighborhoods. Right now, we're specifically working with the East End to better understand in greater depth how can we connect, because Fulton might have a specific need, whereas Churchill might have a specific need, and then even within those neighborhoods, the north versus the south sides or the east versus the west sides of their own boundary may have unique needs. So there'll be public meetings regarding this. Garland with GRTC has been helping with this. If you ever want to know how a bus gets to where it's going, Garland is the mastermind behind this. He's the man behind the curtain. GRTC has decided to pursue a construction manager option, and they do all these things. I won't go through all the listing, but some of it includes utilities, signals, actual building of the station itself, relocation of anything that needs to be done, and then the actual construction within the roadway. The construction plan, here's where we are now. We are in the procurement for construction manager from late summer until fall. We expect there to be a successful proposer by December of this year. Construction is expected to begin in August of 2016, and we get to ask this a lot. How long is the construction going to be at each station? It's about 3 to 4 months. Of course, each station is unique, but that does include utilities. And then the Pulse service is expected to be on the street in October of 2017. So what else is next so far as a public meeting, public engagement process goes? We present to the Urban Design Committee on August 20th at 10 a.m. at City Hall, and then the Planning Commission September 8th. We will then take the feedback that come from those two bodies and incorporate those comments into the design. Then we enter the semi-final design phase, which is also known as 60%. October 2015 will be our next round of public meetings, and then January 2016, another round of public meetings, and then we'll submit the 60% design to stakeholders February 2016. So now all the way through January is when you still have a whole lot of time to be really engaged in this project, and we encourage you to please be really engaged in this project. To my left, you have the really pretty artistic rendering, which is awesome to visualize what this could look like. This is the more realistic. You can see the bus rack on the front. But they're essentially the same here. We just wanted to show you that you will have the bike access on the front, and this is in keeping with the city's master bike plan and providing connectivity across multi-modes. We're not just talking about buses here, we're talking about all the forms of transit.